Hello everyone. Today I want to discuss about the certain short questions related to types of neuron and structures of neurons. So that topics I have already discussed in my previous lectures. So before watching this video, you must watch my previous video. So let us start. Define neuron or nerve cell. So neuron or nerve cell is defined as structural and functional unit of nervous system. Then name the parts of neuron. So neuron that is made up of three parts: nerve cell body, dendrite and axon. Classify the neuron. So neurons are classified by the three different methods. Depending upon the number of the poles, the neurons can be divided into unipolar neuron, bipolar neuron and multipolar neurons. Then depending upon the function, the nerve cells are classified into two types: motor or efferent neurons and sensory or afferent neurons. Then depending upon the length of axon, the neurons are divided into two types: Golgi type 1 neuron and Golgi type 2 neurons. Then what are the important structures present in the nerve cell body of neuron? So nucleus, micelle bodies or micelle granules, neurofibrils, mitochondria, Golgi apparatus are the important structures present in the nerve cell body of neuron. Then another question is what are the micelle bodies and what is their function? So micelle body or micelle granules are the small basophilic granules present throughout the soma of the neuron and dendrites, but not in the axon and axon hillock. Then these granules are also known as tigroid substances, since these bodies are responsible for the tigroid or spotted appearance of the soma. Now micelle bodies that contain ribosomes. So these bodies are concerned with the synthesis of the proteins in the neurons. What are the processes of neuron? So there are two processes: dendrite, that is a short process and that carries the impulses towards the cell body. Second one is axon, that is a long process and that carries the impulses towards the cell body. What are the nerve fibers? Nerve fibers are the processes of a neuron, dendrite and axon. Then mention the number of the axon and dendrite in each neuron. So each neuron has only one axon and dendrite may be absent or present, and if present may be one or many in number. What is exoplasm? So exoplasm is the long central core of cytoplasm of the axon. What is axolemma? So exoplasm is covered by the tubular sheath-like membrane called axolemma. Axolemma, which is the continuation of the cell membrane of nerve cell body. What is axis cylinder? So exoplasm along with the axolemma that covers the axon are together is called axis cylinder of the nerve fiber. Then what is the myelin sheath? So myelin sheath, that is a thick lipoprotein tubular sheath covering the axis cylinder. Then what is the neurilemma and what is its function? So axis cylinder of the nerve fiber of the peripheral nervous system that is covered by a membrane that is known as neurilemma, neurilemmal sheath or schwann sheath. It contains the schwann cell which is essential for the myelogenesis. Then what is the node of Ranvier and what is the internode? So myelin sheath, it is not a continuous sheath but it is absent at a regular intervals. The area where the myelin sheath is absent, that is known as node of Ranvier, and segment of the nerve fiber between the two nodes, that is known as internode. Then what is the chemistry of the myelin sheath? So myelin sheath that is formed by concentric layers of the proteins alternating with the lipids, and these lipids are cholesterol, lecithin and cerebroside, sphingomyelin. Then what are the functions of the myelin sheath? So first of all, its main function is faster conduction. So it is responsible for the faster rate of the impulse through the nerve fibers. In the myelinated nerve fibers, the impulse conducted by the means of saltatory conduction. Second function is insulating capacity. So myelinated nerve fibers that has a high insulating capacity. Because of this, the myelin sheath restricts the nerve impulses within the single nerve fiber and prevents the stimulation of the neighboring nerve fibers. What is myelogenesis? So the process by which the myelin sheath is formed around the axon, that is known as myelogenesis. Which cells are responsible for the myelogenesis? So in the peripheral nervous system, schwann cells present in the neurilemma that is responsible for the myelogenesis. And in the central nervous system, the neurilemma is absent, but the special neuroglial cells are present, and that is known as oligodendroglia, and that is responsible for the formation of the myelin sheath. Then define nucleus, ganglion, tract and nerve. So an aggregation of the neuronal cell body located inside the CNS or central nervous system, that is known as nucleus. An aggregation of the neuronal cell body located outside the central nervous system is known as ganglion. Compact bundle of the axon located inside the central nervous system, that is known as tract. Then a compact bundle of the axon located outside the central nervous system is known as nerve. Then mature neuron cannot undergo mitosis. Why? So nucleus of the nerve cell body of the neuron does not contain centriole, which is necessary for the mitosis, so that the nerve cell cannot undergo mitosis. Which part of the neuron is known as spike trigger zone? So in response to various synaptic inputs on the dendrites, the axon hillock and initial segment that give rise to an axon potential, and hence they are together known as spike trigger zone. What is chromatolysis? So the Nisal bodies are present in the dendrites as well, but they are usually absent from the axon hillock and axon. And this body disintegrate into fine dust particles, and finally they disappear by the process chromatolysis due to fatigue or due to the effect of certain poisons and on sectioning of the axon. So in short, during the fatigue or due to fatigue or any injury to the nerve fibers, the Nisal bodies are disintegrated into fine dust particles and finally they are disappear. This process is known as chromatolysis. Then in a motor neuron, the axon hillock and the initial segment of the axon have the lowest threshold for excitation. Why? So this is because they have a much higher density of voltage gated sodium channel. And what are the Schwann cells and what is their functions? So Schwann cells are the type of the cells in the Neurilemma very close to the axolemma, and that plays a very important role in the formation of the myelin sheath. What is Neurilemma and what is its function? So Neurilemma, that is a very thin membrane that forms the outermost covering of the nerve fiber of the peripheral nervous system, and it contains Schwann cells, so it is necessary for the myelogenesis. What is saltatory conduction? In which nerve fibers does it occur? So in myelinated nerve fibers, the impulses jump from the one node to another node, and this type of the transmission of the impulse is known as saltatory conduction. What is the significance of the saltatory conduction? So because of the saltatory conduction, the conduction of the impulse through a myelinated nerve fiber is 50 times faster than in non-myelinated nerve fibers. Then explain the mechanism of the saltatory conduction. So myelin sheath that is not permeable to ions. So during the conduction of the Axon potential, the entry of the sodium ions from the extracellular fluid into the nerve fiber that occurs only at the node of the Ranvier where the myelin sheath is absent. So this causes a depolarization only in the successive node, not in the internode. So the Axon potential jumps from the one node to another node. So this type of the transmission of the Axon potential from one node to another node, that is known as saltatory conduction. Why is the nerve fiber not fatigued? So nerve fiber is not fatigued because it can conduct only one Axon potential at a time. At that time, it is completely refractory and cannot conduct the another Axon potential. Thank you.